Hello everybody. It is Friday the 11th of August. I want to talk about the third eye chakra and liken it onto, so to speak, the all-seeing eye on the top of the pyramid, the Illuminati pyramid. And to see that whatever they build out of a knowledge of ourselves. They don't use it in the same way. I want to show you this here. But the principle, they use the principle. And that is, in a way, why we do not see them, or we have not seen them for so long. Because the principle is within us. Yeah, so we know it. So it's very hard to detect them if they operate on the same principle as ourselves, if in a slightly different way. Right, let's start with the third eye chakra. And to say to those that say, oh, I'm so non-dual, yeah, my third eye has opened and I'm now completely non-dual. Just want to point out to you that according to the teachings of the chakras, the third eye is the lotus flower with 2 petals. 2. It is the duality. It is where we see the world through the eyes of a duality. Yeah? So how does that even work? So if we see ourselves as the pyramid, it is a depiction of us. We have a base. Now in the teachings of the chakra, the base has got 4 petals. Now knowledge rises from the base. And it gets really, I would say, as far as mission control, which is the heart. So the knowledge of what is from the base of what we are, that's our root, what we know, what we are, what we are aware of, it rises into the heart. We let it know to each other, and then I guess some will enter the third eye, basically to look for a solution, or to be given a solution. From where? Yeah? Something I need to think about. Oh, well, not quite. Some have their eyes set to heaven, to the 1,000. Or thinking that the 1,000, the knowledge of the 1,000 is through the crown chakra. That means out of this into space. But if you were to look in this world, if you gazed into over this world, you would see that there's also 1,000 here. Consciousnesses, different consciousnesses that would give you knowledge. Everything you see is a consciousness that contains some knowledge according to itself. Here's a massive garden here, from where your solution might come. Anyway, so in the story of Jesus, in the story of Jesus, he rose into the third eye, and there was somebody already there, which was Satan, which is fear and the knowledge of now and the knowledge of the problem that had already risen from the base, which might continuously rise from the base. He's always there. Jesus said when he brought compassion, the knowledge of compassion, to create the duality, I was there from the beginning of the world. Actually, so was Satan. And in us, if you look at the story of the garden, he was actually our firstborn. He was the first thing we became aware of when we detached from the knowledge of that garden, that God, and started reasoning for ourselves, gaining knowledge of ourselves. That is actually what we're trying to find, knowledge of ourselves. And then he was the first knowledge, awareness that we had of ourselves, fear. He was there from the beginning, from our beginning. He's part of our foundation. And if you say, once you know something, you can't unknow it, then yeah, he's been with us for a very long time. So an emotion and a knowledge, and the knowledge was that good and bad exists. That was our start. You might argue that is not a good point to start from, but if you know nothing else about yourself, those two things, fear and the knowledge that good and bad exists, would drive you to go forward with extreme caution, which is a good thing. So in that way it might have been, if you know nothing else, those two might serve you as a beginning, so that you don't shoot off like a lunatic and get yourself killed in the first 5 steps. Anyway, so let's go back to the third eye. Satan was there from our beginning. And Jesus came, compassion rose into the third eye to gain knowledge. The knowledge that it was given was that, you can ask. What this asking actually entails, it's actually, from what I see now, is it is not I want, and it's not even I need. It is I have the intention that this should happen. I know that this shall happen. Yeah, it's not us knowing that you have received. That's what it says. Anyway, that is the knowledge he brought. That compassion, that was given to compassion. Now, there's a question. If greed were to go into the third eye, rise into the third eye, would it be given the same answer? Or would it be given the same knowledge? Is the same knowledge given to all, or is it given to each according to what they are? Would greed receive the same knowledge? There's something you should think about. Anyway, so once compassion entered into the third eye and found there was already somebody there who up to then, or always, is the ruler of this world, seeing the world through the eyes of fear, through the knowledge of good and bad. And then comes the story that that Satan said, look, he showed him the world, so focus was on the world, not in heaven, not to heaven, but the focus was on this world, because Satan is a servant of this world. And it says, I will give you the kingdoms. Yeah, they're mine to give, and I will give them to you. If you worship me. And there is where we don't function correctly at all. That it is a story in the Bible that happens over and over and over again, where the two brothers are at odds with one another. Yeah? And where one wants to rule over the other, one wants to gain the upper hand over the other. They're forever scheming against each other to get what? To get the inheritance. Two different intentions in this world. Well, one is not in this world yet, it's very close to being here. To becoming the one reality, to become the one reality. the one that is creating this world. Now, the way of the intention to have dominion over everything, the way is competition. That's their way is competition, where two are set up, where they play people out against each other in competition to gain knowledge. And that is the story through the entire Bible, is two brothers set in competition with in the disastrous outcome in the Cain and Abel story. But if we say that the way of this world is not competition but cooperation, so the sons should cooperate with one another. And here you have, I really think what you're looking at here is nature and nurture. Yeah, we've been taught the way of competition. Nature says cooperate. Work together to create an outcome. Not one, get the upper hand over the other and then do it all his way. That's what Jesus did in the end. I'm going my way. I've kicked Satan out of my heaven and I'm going my way. And his view, his sight was definitely not set on earth, but the outcome in heaven. That which is not yet created, which is not yet known here. That was his outcome. He was not going to create, although he learned, in the first instance, yes, he took Satan's offer. He knew the kingdoms of this world, and that is not countries or palaces or jewels or whatever. That is the kingdoms that are built by man. The kingdoms of this world is nature, and he had knowledge of nature. So yes, he did actually take Satan's gift, and he was in this world, but he only gathered the knowledge to serve another outcome, which was, it was not healing for the sake of healing, but to gain the knowledge of healing, to bring that knowledge somewhere else. Serve something else, not in this world, that is not of this world. And there again you have the two brothers going two different ways. So there you have, it should have been cooperation. There was cooperation, and it worked in this world. In the stories that we are told, that cooperation, the knowledge of now, the knowledge of what the problem is, creating fear, being given a solution, and then if fear receives compassion joyfully, together they create an outcome. It is what it says in the Bible, 2 or more in my name. Coming together of the two to create an outcome together. The knowledge of what is, the fear, and the compassion working together, cooperating with each other, one giving, the other receiving, creating outcomes. That would have been the way. And again, that knowledge, once it's gained in the third eye, it should not shoot out through the crown chakra and go into infinity and beyond, but it should be brought back to earth, brought back to the heart, to be incorporated into everything else, to create a world inside of the heart. So, well, let me just talk very briefly about the all-seeing eye then on top of the Illuminati pyramid. It uses the same principle. And that is, first of all, what does it see? It's not all-seeing. It only sees one thing. It is a single eye. It only sees one thing, and that is the outcome. That's all it sees. It may have seen at some point different outcomes, but it made a choice. It is focused on one, and again, that is what Jesus did. There was a choice of two different outcomes in this world, or go and get your reward in heaven and bring that thing down to earth. So the all-seeing eye is focused on one outcome, and then it gathers knowledge that should serve it. And there is definitely, and it is the knowledge that is elevated over everything else. That's not emotional knowledge. There's very little emotion there. But what is elevated is a knowledge derived by head knowledge, science. And that's what they're doing at the moment. They are elevating a knowledge to create fear out of everything, out of the connectivity of everything else. They elevate one or two things. At the moment it's the climate, the awareness of the climate, or awareness of viruses, to create fear, because it serves them toward the outcome, which is where the one eye is definitely looking at, and not looking at anything else. And that was the way of Jesus in the end, the oneness that he became. Tunnel vision on the one thing, which was the kingdom of God in heaven that should come to earth. And that is exactly what they're doing. To say God loved the world so much that he sacrificed his only son. To say, I love something so much, I'm going to slaughter my son for you, is completely warped to start with, if you look at it from a perspective of a halfway normal human being. But what it taught, what it actually teaches is God loves the world so much he wants to have it. He really loves it, he wants to have it. And he will sacrifice even his own son to get to that outcome. That's what that says. And that is what they are doing. To hell with the consequences. Tunnel vision on the outcome, whatever knowledge serves, do away with emotions, whatever enlightened knowledge of reason, not emotion. And then whatever serves into hell with the consequences, and sacrifice as many as you want, as long as it gets you to the outcome. And that is what they're doing, and that was the way of Jesus. The other way would have been cooperation, using the knowledge in this world. It came out of us, and we are a part of this world, and it was given to serve in this world, not somewhere else. And according to this world, to save all. I don't know if all can be saved. That's another thing. There is something that compassion should have thought about at the time. You might want for all to be saved, but realistically can all be saved. Again, But then you would really have to reason with something else and not only see what you want yourself and go for it, you know, disregarding everything else. Because compassion has got its limits. If it's not received, it cannot save. So, yeah, you might want for all to be saved. That doesn't mean all can be saved. Anyway, I think I leave it at that for today. No, one last thing. There was one last thought. And that is where we come from. We want to get out of the duality, not into a singularity, please. Expansion into a multi-dimensional being. Yeah? Not becoming a singularity. That is what they're saying. There's a singularity coming. You don't want to go there. You don't want to become just one thing. One is the absence of reason. You need two to reason, at least two. Right, so if we look at the picture of the chakras, you know, and we worked as a depiction of ourselves. I mean, you can use other depictions of yourself, you'll see similar things in them, but what it says is that the foundation was four knowledges, and that is, again, there's either head knowledge or emotional knowledge. The third eye has got two. Out there is all knowledge, but you're restricted to that which will actually serve you out of the knowledge of yourself. And it's not everything is possible. Well, and everything is possible, but you should only do that which serves you if you were of sound mind. But this depiction of the chakras and the amount of petals that there are, I mean, that was derived at by somebody at some point. And again, we know according to ourselves. Yeah? So was that being that brought this depiction, a human being, that brought this depiction in the first place, that was a knowledge out of himself. Does that mean it is universally the knowledge of all of us? And is it that it cannot be changed? That is how it is. And the reason and the thought that this depiction has stayed unchanged for a long, long time. It's quite ancient, and it has stayed unchanged for a long time. Again, this human being, whoever brought that knowledge, and it stayed unchanged. Why? Did those that received the knowledge stand there in reverence to the Enlightened One and accepted what the Enlightened One said as the ultimate unchanging truth? And again, that is not the way of science. There needs to be a discussion. Did anybody actually speak up against it and say, but there might be another possibility? Did that ever happen? Or did we derive at this depiction because, people came into agreement out of reverence for the Enlightened One? I think that knowing human beings, that's quite possibly what did happen. We have a tendency to worship, which we really must get out of. And then if you look at it in the book, in the Bible, it says 2 or more in my name. Yeah? The intention that all shall be, the highest principle will be all shall be saved, that we can already see from the outcome, or I could see from the outcome, that is probably impossible, especially if you're dealing with something that has free will, because it can block you. So the intention that all shall be saved, I mean, aim for it. Don't beat yourself up if you don't reach it. You should aim high, as high as possible. Whether you get there is another question. So, in my name, in the name of the intention, the way of the Father, which is in this world cooperation, and then on the spiritual path, it is the path what is elevated into our third eye as an emotion, an emotional knowing. I mean, the heart also contains knowledge of what is, but it is the emotional knowing that has been brought back to the heart. And then how many witnesses can be there? Is it said that there can only be two? There is only a duality? Or can you be a more multi-dimensional being, which means more than two aspects of yourself can be there, having a conversation with one another, cooperating with one another, not beating shite out of each other to that one of them has dominion. Yeah? Get the war out of heaven and bring cooperation in there. Yeah. Can there be, is it set in stone that there can be only two? The Bible says two or more in my name. So there can be more than two in the third eye. And then how many, and here really comes Occam's razor. How many can you have in there before the whole thing becomes completely confusing again? Yeah? I mean, the idea is to separate the knowledge out of all. And how many can you have that it still serves the purpose? How many witnesses can you have and it's still, yeah, you know, you can still see what's happening. So Occam's razor doesn't actually say you can have only one. It says you should limit your witnesses to a point where it should serve. The one thing you do not want to become is a singularity. And that is what they keep saying. We are going toward a singularity. Man is going toward a singularity. And I really do not think that should happen. Anyway, okay, I leave it at that. This is a lot. This is a lot. And I shall think of it along those ways a bit more to see what else it shows me. But again, here's another foundation. Is it how I say it is? No, but how I say it is a possible interpretation of what it is saying in the old texts. It is different from the interpretation that we were given. But then it should create a different outcome, which we desperately need a different outcome right now. The book of the Revelation is crap. That outcome, forget it. So we need to change our perspective of what's happening. This is a possible interpretation. And if there are others out there, then we should have a discussion to see which would serve us best, because once we start, and here it comes, once we start teaching our children, once we agree on the story of what it is we are, how it is we function, what it is we're in, where it is we're going, heaven or earth, what is it we are a part of. Again, bring the children onto me once we have agreed on a new perspective of ourselves and start teaching that to our children. We are creating a different human being. But we should give our children the best possible knowledge of themselves to go forward in this world, the best possible perception of themselves. Whereas the perception the church is drumming into them at the moment is you are nothing, you know nothing, you should be ruled over, and you should wait for the one to come and save you all. They are creating human beings. That story is creating human beings that will function according to what they think they are. So in creating a new story, we will create a new human being that will go forward with a different perception of itself and therefore function differently in this world. That is the knowledge of, how to create a man. Again, that is the knowledge that they have. They, the master builders. The one that will create a being out of the man of clay. Then should we be doing the same thing? And at all time teaching that this is not set in stone. Yeah? But allowing new ideas to come in. Evolution is change. It is constant change. But for that to occur, new ideas must be allowed in. Otherwise, there's going to be no evolution. Anyway, I do leave it at that for now. And I talk to you again soon. Bye.